G'day guys, welcome back to the show. This week I'm going to go over another method that I use to create personal art, which is painting from abstraction. And this is a great way to engage your intuition and come up with imagery that's personal to you, that's on your mind, and to sort of break free of the usual subject matter that you might be drawn towards if you set up a piece with a solid structure in mind from the beginning. Now, I'm sure you're all familiar with looking up at the clouds and seeing images, right? People often see completely different images, and you can point out, I see a dog, I see a cat, and if someone looks long enough, they can usually kind of find the things that you're talking about. But the things that jump to your mind, that's just the stuff that's kind of on the surface of your subconscious, I guess. Who knows? It's a phenomenon known as pareidolia. And basically what that is your brain's attempt to find patterns. I've spoken a bit in the past in a couple different videos about how our brain constructs our reality, emphasizing certain details and bringing certain information to your attention and pushing other information away. Now, evolutionarily speaking, it's very advantageous for you to notice if there is, for example, someone looking at you from in the woods. They might be about to attack you. You might be able to see a lion, the shape of a lion in the grass. If you think you see something that looks like a lion, if your brain thinks that the shapes in that shadow area in the grass looks a bit like a lion, it is going to try its best to make it look as much like a lion as possible. And it's hard to believe, but it's very, very much true. There's plenty of optical illusions out there that can show this, and if you look at the image, you might not see it at all. But as soon as someone points out to you that there is a lion in this image or something like that, once your brain sees it, you cannot unsee it because your brain thinks it's seeing that and that it's important. So it's going to bring it to your attention. It does the same thing with the clouds. And it's sort of, I don't know, it's hard to say, right? But I think it might actually be getting into something of your subconscious and showing you things that you are likely to think about, right? Things that you would connect. So I was working on some client work and I was making some final revisions on an illustration that had taken many, many hours to complete. It was very high detail, sort of finished work. And I was trying to find some detail and I turned off a bunch of layers and turned on just the two first layers, really, really low down in the piece. And I saw it was just some abstract shapes, which was the beginning of this painting. I saw some shapes and I thought, that kind of looks like a bunch of statues standing in the forest. And I just saved out those two layers and thought I might get to that at some point because it gave me like a mood and a feeling that I liked. So I thought I might get to this. And I came past it just a week ago and I thought, you know what? I really want to work on this. I haven't done an environment in a long time, and I actually really enjoy painting environments and landscapes. It's what I began drawing when I started, and haven't done one in ages because I've been fascinated by anatomy and characters and stuff lately. But I thought it'd be really cool to jump back in and do a really vibrant, colorful landscape. Now, one of the interesting things that comes out of painting from abstraction like this is that I wouldn't have made these statues red had I set out from the beginning to draw a bunch of crumbling statues. But the color was red from the abstraction, and the sky had a beautiful, harmonious kind of turquoise. And I loved the color palette, so I just decided to roll with it. And as I worked on the image, because I didn't have a plan, I just thought, this looks like it could be a bunch of cool, strange statues standing up in the middle of the wilderness. But beyond that, I had no story in mind. But the idea of these statues being red began to inform me with a little bit of narrative, because it gave the image a kind of mood. Now, this narrative didn't come together all at once. I didn't come to it with a fully formed idea. Just like the drawing method, where I started from abstract shapes, the story started from basically a little seed. I kind of looked at the mood that the piece was giving me, and I asked myself, what does it make me think of? And I wrote that stuff down in my sketchbook, and I kind of expanded upon that idea and came up with a design for the main statue. And I said, this kind of represents the idea, the concept I'm going for. And I put in that main element. And that statue is the seed of the story. It's the concept I'm trying to convey boiled down into a metaphor, a small metaphor. And that gave me a platform from which to work. So when I moved into another unrefined area, some of the other statues in this field, I wasn't simply asking what would look coolest here, what would serve the composition best. I was asking, how do I add another statue in that tells more of this story, that makes the message clearer? Because I'm trying to say something that has nothing to do with statues, but I'm trying to do it with statues, okay? The message is unrelated to statues. And it puts you into a very strange headspace. It's like you've been asked to, I don't know, it could be anything, like describe the feeling of casual sunbaking on a beautiful summer day at the beach, using the medium of flower arranging, right? You can kind of, like, even though that sounds ridiculous, you probably started thinking about things like, what's a big yellow or orange flower that I can use to represent the sun, right? What color is my my beach towel? Is it like that classic, I don't know, blue and white stripes, like something like that? Maybe I can get blue and white flowers and have them sitting, alternating at the bottom. And then what flower represents me as a person? What's a special flower that I remember for some reason? I think, oh, that flower I like that flower. I can use that to represent myself, and I can surround it with, blue flowers around the edges as the sky and things like that. It gives you a map. And the thing is, I could ask an entire room of people to arrange flowers in such a way with exactly the same brief, and they would all come up with completely different ideas. Because no one knows how to answer that question. It's totally personal. It's so abstract that it can't really be approached in the same way. Imagine now I ask that same room of people to paint me a picture about sunbaking on a beautiful summer day. And you're going to get probably an entire room full of different interpretations of people lying on towels at the beach, right? Everyone's going to do something pretty much the same, but ask them to do it in a way where they feel like they can't rely upon the standard ways of thinking about the problem. And suddenly you have to come up with new ideas and make all of these connections in ways that you never thought you would. And it's in that space, I think, that some interesting ideas can come out. The things that really make people ask questions, because it's not so literal. You're getting abstract. You're painting an entire painting from abstraction. And then even the method of extracting the story is abstract. Everything is abstract, but you're still trying to say something very clear. And because of that, the image has a very strong direction. When you look at it, you know that the artist is trying to say something, but you don't know what it is. It makes you invest yourself a little bit more into the piece, looking at it, trying to find all of the little details, trying to tie together the narrative. And you want the viewer to begin to make personal connections to the work. You want them to see the little details, the little color temperature changes, all these different things, the subject matter, the gestures of the hands, the face, You want them to start falling back on their own personal experiences and kind of reverse engineering all the details and relating it to their own experience. Because that's what art is about. It's about connecting, right? All of the best art makes you think about yourself in some way. Something about it captures something in your imagination and draws you into the piece. And you want to spend more time with it. That's the goal. You want people to question things, to find some depth in the piece. Now, I'm not saying that I've achieved that with this. I'm not saying I'm a master, I've figured it all out. I'm just saying, why not try, right? Why not try and answer questions? Why not try to ask questions? Why not try and say something interesting? And why not try and tap into your subconscious? Bring something from abstraction to reality. Do it in an interesting way. Challenge yourself. Challenge your viewers. Say something personal that you don't want to say out loud. Say something that you do want to say out loud, and try and say it really clearly in an abstract way, and see what people think about it. See how they connect with it. See what they think it's about. It's really interesting. It's fun. I love asking people what they think my work is about. I get some really interesting answers. Sometimes people have completely different ideas, but you look at it and you go, oh yeah, I could imagine that. Yeah, that's cool. And then sometimes someone gets super close and you're like, wow, like that hit the mark. That's pretty cool. I managed to say something very specific with totally unrelated subject matter. Anyway, it's just another doorway to open somewhere along the artistic journey. There's a time and a place for learning fundamentals and how to draw. And then after a certain amount of time, you're going to want to open up some more doors and ask the more deep and important questions of why you're making the image and what does it say. And it's a very exciting door to open. And painting from abstraction is a really cool way to do that, because your subconscious just starts to run wild with the shapes. And you can start to, you can explore the image as you make it. And it's just a really fun way to create. So give it a shot and see what you come up with. Thanks so much for stopping by, guys. I hope you enjoyed it and found it informative. If you did enjoy the show, why not subscribe and hit that little bell so that you get a notification every time I release a video. They come out weekly, Monday or Tuesday, depending where you are in the world. And yeah, drop a comment down below if you've got any questions or feedback. I get back to every single one. And last but not least, I'd like to give a big, warm thank you to all of my wonderful, wonderful patrons. These videos are for you.